All right, we're going to do a quick update to the channel here. Just show you a couple projects I've been working on and a couple things that are going on with the projects that I'm doing. So first thing you'll notice here, this is actually somebody's PiGRRL Zero Advance they sent to me. They're having some issues, so I'm actually going to be helping him out. Figure out what's going on with his PiGRRL Zero, just a couple issues with his left button, and then I think somehow kind of how it operates. I think he's just got a couple of things. But I know a lot of people are having issues with their left button and their up button being too tight. And I have noticed that's an issue as well. In fact, I'm going to be looking at changing the actual case design to accommodate that issue. But for now, I do have these, I did upload to Thingiverse these little spacers here. You can see these here. And so these actually fit in the case. Let me grab a case quick and I'll show you how those work. Um, so this is pretty slick. It makes it pretty easy just to kind of put some additional space on your PCB in the case. So if you go ahead and open the case up, you can see here, this just fits right there. So you actually see it right here. I just glue them in place, and it does provide enough space between the PCB and the actual case, and then you have a nice fluid response between the buttons and when you push them. I think some other issues people are having, the case design for this size is actually, there's like some space here that it creates. You have to make sure when you're putting this all together, it's really tight. I mean, that's probably the most imperative thing to do is just to make sure everything you put internal with the case, when you're putting it all together, it's really tight. So when you're compacting, when you're putting everything down and you're soldering it, make sure you're trying to put everything together super tight in the case. Had some other questions about the designs. Extension of the battery was not shown, so you can see here that I just ran the wires underneath and through to tie into the actual clipped header for the battery, but you got to basically solder some additional wires to the battery. So you'll see that I had the wires clipped from the header to the battery, soldered some additional wires. I actually, in the kits I put together, I actually throw extra wires in there, so it should be easier for you to do something like that. So this is actually my build. I had a problem with damaging my Pi Zero, so you can see this is the one I'm keeping myself, and just I've enjoy the red color, kind of nice throwback to the Game Boy color. So um, there's some other issues folks are having. I would say to make sure you're putting something in between your spaces between your PCB and your components. Obviously, you don't want your components grounding out against your buttons. I would also recommend putting some tape or something between the battery and the buttons. I punctured a battery simply because those are really sharp points. So you want to clip those points so you don't have any issues. Um, so working on that. I also have this other build I'm working on. This is actually a prototype build that I'm actually finalizing. You'll see that I'm having the same issue as well because it's a prototype build. It required wires inside that the PCB couldn't handle. So I have a little more, I guess, a little more stuff stuffed in here. So there is some thicker cases out on Thingiverse. If you go out and take a look, they're just slightly thicker. There's a 1 millimeter and then a 2 millimeter version. Should make it a little thicker. It's going to be a little thicker case. It's not going to be as thin and undesigned, but at the end of the day, it'll look really sharp still, and it'll all the components will fit, and actually alleviate some of the pressure point issues you'll see with the buttons. So there's that, and then this here is just a build I haven't quite finished, but I started. Um, so working on a build with a clear buttons and green case. Should be a pretty cool build. I think it'll turn out fine. You'll see here that I haven't gotten too far on it. I've basically soldered the buttons onto the PCB and just kind of testing things out to see how it all worked. But really, that's about as far as I've gotten on it. So this is the one I plan on doing some kind of live build or tutorial build from, so people can see a full video of just how I built it while I'm building. So um, that's what's going on. I've got a lot of these PCBs for sale still, so I just got a bunch of new ones in. If you're having issues with your PCB, let me know. I had one guy call, or I guess hit me up on Discord. He said that there was an issue with his PCB, and it wasn't the whole PCB. It's just one grounding issue between one of the buttons. So if you are, just contact me. I'll send you a new one, or we'll figure out something to get it working properly. So we do have a lot of PCBs in. So if you order now, on my Etsy, you'll get one almost immediately. So pretty sweet. I still got to finalize the files for this, but I will post the PCB files. I know some people are interested in rubber buttons. One thing, one thing I think people don't understand is the way this is designed. If we were to utilize the SNES rubber buttons for this, it probably wouldn't work well. Let me open these up and show you. I've got the rubber buttons for the design. So here you go. If you actually throw this rubber button, and we were to actually have these spot little, these little, oh, I'm not sure what they call them, but these spot little, basically it's a grounding button. So you don't actually have to put a physical button here, but it's just when you touch the actual membrane to the actual button, it grounds, which triggers the actual button to trigger a depress. We could probably set this up here. So you could have this very similar setup here and make this work with the D-pad. That would work well. The problem in lies with the other side. I did tighten the range on the actual buttons. So you'll notice that on a regular SNES controller, this is actually a lot wider. So I didn't want this really massive build. I didn't want this thing to be huge. So I did make this more uniform. But whereas you see here, it's actually a lot wider configuration on a regular SNES button. So a lot of people are asking about membranes, like, hey, why didn't you just go with a membrane on this? And that's kind of why. So to make the builds work, I ended up sticking with those soft buttons, those tactile buttons that are 8mm by 8mm. So I think there could be a design that utilized this, or maybe some membranes from like a Game Boy that were a little narrower. I don't know. I think there's some options there. So if people have some ideas, hit me up. I think that's one idea as well. But we're just kind of looking through some of that. Some people have asked how to connect their power button to the actual inside of this point. So sometimes it's really loose. You'll see here like I'll put this in and it's super loose. It's not even staying put. It's like you tip it, it's gonna fall out. The best way to do this, I found, a little bit of super glue. Or I'm sorry, not super glue, hot glue. I just lost the button. Um, if you put a little hot glue on the end of that button, and then just go ahead and depress it and hold it in, not a ton, just a little bit, just enough that it'll kind of stick, and it should stay there for quite a while. Hot glue usually is pretty good. You want to keep an eye on it and just make sure that it stays there. But these buttons are easy to print. They're cheap. You can use PLA. You can use like a flexible TPU or anything like that. So flexible filaments or PLA for those buttons, not a problem. Um, so yeah, I just thought I'd put out a quick update on the channel, just give everybody kind of a quick, update of what's going on and some info on anything else. Yeah, like I said, if you want to chat, go ahead and hit me up on Discord. I think that's the easiest way to get a hold of me. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and if you like the video, please give me a like, and we'll catch you later. Thanks.